Dialogue is a key aspect of story. So, today I want to talk about how to elevate your dialogue with character desires and secrets. People are fascinated by people, so your readers want to read your characters interacting. This means talking. However, they don't want to read just everyday conversations. Instead, readers want to see the conversations that deepen your characters or advance the plot in some way. This means your characters should have a reason for having those dialogues and maybe not be entirely honest. If you hang on until the end of this video, I'll tell you how you can get a short character creation chart that will help you develop your character's core motivations, their physical appearance, and their voice. This is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers, because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and author. Let's start with characters want something from conversations. Each of the characters participating in your dialogue should want something out of that conversation. Otherwise, they wouldn't be motivated to have the dialogue in the first place. This motivation can be complex or simple. If your character is purchasing an apple, the motivation for the conversation with the cashier is your character wants the apple and the cashier wants her money. Simple character motivation, but it's enough to get them interacting. Knowing what's motivating your characters to have the conversation will help you better understand those characters and keep the story moving forward. It's going to give the dialogue direction and help you stay focused so you don't go off on some sort of dialogue tangent that has nothing to do with your story. It can also lead to conflict if what your characters want out of the conversation isn't the same thing. For example, if the main character is trying to let the side character know they like them, and the side character knows that that other character likes them and they don't want to have that conversation because they don't like them back, that side character might be constantly changing the subject while the main character is constantly trying to put their feelings out there. Two different goals for the conversation, and it's creating conflict. Now let's look at an example of what character motivation does for dialogue. This is from Shooter by Carolyn Pignat. In this scene, there are 4 teens who are locked in a bathroom because there's an active school shooter. They are looking at the pictures that the character Xander took, and they're not too happy. Here's what that scene looks like. Is that? Izzy snatches a picture from the pile on the floor and glares at Xander. You said you destroyed that picture. I did, Xander says. This one is a different shot. Wilson meant all of them. She frowns as she looks at it. You should have destroyed them all. But he specifically said, destroy this picture and it's negative. Xander seems confused. That is not that picture. The picture is a close-up of a girl sitting at a table, face hidden behind a curtain of hair, X-Acto knife in her fingers. Sunlight catches on the tiny triangle. We can't say your face, I say, trying to help. It could be anyone. She rips it in tiny pieces and throws them into the trash. Yeah, but it is me. It's you then, Alice goes. It's just one moment. Yes, yes! Xander looks at her, his eyes light up. One moment. You see that. You get it, right, Alice? During this exchange, Izzy is trying to erase that moment from history. It's something she doesn't want to remember, and she doesn't want other people knowing about. At the same time, she's trying to impress on Xander that it was wrong of him to have witnessed and taken that picture in the first place. Xander, on the other hand, is trying to get everyone else to see what he sees. He has a way of seeing people's small, vulnerable moments in the school, and he wants to share that with everyone. To him, those are the moments people are revealing their true selves. The other 2 characters, Hogan, our narrator, and Alice, are just trying to keep the peace since they're locked in this tiny bathroom with a school shooter on the loose. They just want these kids to stay quiet and not get them in trouble. Because Izzy's and Xander's motivations are in conflict with one another, those are the two characters who are dominating this part of the conversation. That makes sense. It's the interesting part that readers want more of. So that's what it looks like when you know what your character's motivations are for having the conversation. It leads to a deeper conversation. It leads to something that's going to reveal more about your characters, and it keeps the conversation on track. Here, we get new information about a lot of the characters. We see that Izzy is not the perfect girl she pretends to be. She's actually caving under the pressure of that perfect image and her parents' expectations. Xander isn't malicious. He's not taking these photos to hurt anyone. He's taking them because he thinks they're beautiful, and this is what he sees. So we get to learn a little bit more about those characters as well. Having your characters attempt to satisfy their motivation for having the conversation is going to drive your plot forward and push the story into the next events. That's what Pignat is doing so well in this scene. Next, I want to share why people don't say what they mean, and neither should your characters. Being bold and stating outright what we want isn't something all of us humans are great at doing. For some people, they can be bold in certain situations and not in others, or they're bold about certain topics and shy about other topics, or it might have to do with who they're talking to. For example, a lot of people have trouble with words of affection. It's hard for them to say, "I love you." Other people might have a hard time saying something outright to their boss, who's a bit of a bully. Or maybe if they're in public, they can't really speak up very well, but if it's a one-on-one situation, they're good to go. You need to know where your characters fall in that area. When are they bold? When are they shy? When are they afraid to say what they want? When are they not afraid to say what they want? Usually, the more we care about something, the harder it is for us to talk about. An example of this is Hills Like White Elephants by Ernest Hemingway, where the two characters seem to be talking about their trip, but in reality, the woman is pregnant, and she wants a commitment from the man to have this baby, and he wants her to get an abortion. Nowhere in that story is the word baby, abortion, or pregnant, but we still know what they're talking about. This is an example of characters talking around a subject instead of being bold. We see something similar in He's Just Not That Into You, the movie, where two characters are talking about what color to paint a room, when in reality they're talking about whether they should have a baby right then. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because of that bit of dialogue. So, when you are drafting your dialogue, think about how likely your characters are to just state outright what they want. Izzy is a very bold, forward person. She has confidence, so she's willing to say most things. Xander is a little bit different. He doesn't pick up on social cues. I think he's autistic, although the author never states what it is that makes him see the world differently. So he just doesn't know that he should maybe not say certain things, so he just says them. The other two characters in that scene are much less confident. They're not willing to talk about things in the same way as Izzy and Xander. When your character is able to get to the point and state it outright, and when they aren't, can say a lot about them. It can say how serious that topic is, how much they care about it, what they're afraid of, who they're confident with and who they're not, all sorts of things about them. So, put your characters in some sticky situations. Let them have those hard conversations. That's what your readers want to see. Building on that, next I want to share how not all characters are truthful. In addition to not always saying what we want, we have to remember that not everyone tells the truth. Even good characters say little white lies every once in a while, or maybe a half-truth to protect someone. Even evil characters say the truth if it serves their agenda. So we have to remember that sometimes people lie, and that can be really interesting to read. Having a character lie is a great way to add tension and conflict, especially if the reader knows they're lying and the characters don't. That can create great tension and suspense. It's also more realistic. Now, they do need to have a reason for the lie. It could be that they are afraid of telling the truth. It could be that by lying they get something that they want. But again, we need that motivation for the dialogue. Or we could not quite go with a lie, but with a misunderstanding. One author I worked with has a character who is always being mistaken for a reporter or a mistress, when in reality she's a detective. Often she has a little trouble getting information out of people before they realize what she is. It's much more interesting to read, and it gives her some challenges to overcome. Here's an example of how a character lying can affect dialogue. This is from Nowhere to Go But Up by Jessica Love in Flight, a 30th Street fiction anthology. And I do want to warn you, this short story is about domestic abuse, and there's just a bit of it in here. "Look, are you upset about the glass?" Ethan asked. "You know I didn't mean it. You just got me all worked up. You don't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "I don't want anything else from you. I'm not taking anything from the apartment." "Ash, honey, why are you doing this to me?" Now the tears streamed down his face, and his deliberate timing infuriated her even further. He would have made one hell of an actor, she thought. "I'm not doing it to you. I'm doing it for me," she said, although she knew he wouldn't be able to understand that. She slapped herself before she apologized. Saying sorry had become second nature with him, saying instead, "It's not revenge. I'm not happy here with you. I'm leaving, and I don't want you to come looking for me. Please don't contact me again." His eyes fell away from hers, and she felt a delicious, spiteful satisfaction as his face reddened again. "I will find you, you know that," he said, and in his tone she heard his temper trying to boil up over the crocodile tears. "I love you." In this exchange, the character Ashley is finally standing up for herself. She's had enough. She's getting out of that abusive relationship, and she's leaving that state. Ethan here is lying because he's a manipulator. His lie is all about power and control. He wants to convince Ashley that he's sorry and the people around him, because abusers tend to put on a bit of a performance. They don't want anybody else to know what they do behind closed doors. That's his reason for lying, and Ashley sees right through it. What would be your characters for lying? What would motivate them to be manipulative or to not tell the truth? What about your antagonist or your side characters? What would motivate them to lie? Think about that. This might give you some good story ideas, and it might help you craft more interesting dialogue. I want to leave you with thoughts on dialogue and body language from an editor and author. If you have two characters in a space together, they should be communicating. Usually, this means dialogue, but not always. If your characters are actively ignoring each other, they might show that and communicate it with their body language. And even if your characters are speaking, you should have body language. Humans and animals communicate more through facial expressions and body language than they do through words and tone. One way that you can show a reader a character is lying is through body language. This way your reader might pick up on the lie while your other characters don't, or everyone can pick up on the lie that way. But body language often reveals a lie. It often also shows when a character isn't saying what they want to, or it can show what the meaning behind the words really is. Like in Ernest Hemingway's short story, body language plays a big role in the reader's understanding of that conversation. So be sure to include body language in addition to your dialogue. Ethan's tears might seem genuine until his face reddens. Izzy is trying to pretend like she doesn't care as much about that photograph until she finally gives in and tears it into little pieces. By her looking away and destroying it, we know how much she cares about that moment being captured on film. Your character's body language helps a reader understand what is motivating them to have that dialogue. That's why you need to be sure to include body language with your dialogue. Now that we've talked about some ways you can use your character's motivations and secrets to drive your dialogue, I want to know what motivates your character to speak. Share their motivations in the comments below. And for more videos on dialogue and other aspects of writing, subscribe to Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkwriting.com. That is where you will find the character creation chart, which will help you develop your characters' motivations as well as their voice for your dialogue. And if you want to see how I approach writing dialogue, you can find my short story collection, When Magic Calls, at caitlinburvey.com, my author website. And now it's your turn to understand what's motivating your characters to have a conversation, to know when they would be bold and say what they want and when they wouldn't, and to maybe have your characters lie every once in a while to ignite your ink.